There we go.
Hello, good afternoon. We are live for episode 3 of the QBA's Toolbox Talk series. And today, the Rob Stevens of the past has transitioned into Dean. So Dean is also from our Varroa Mite Prevention and Preparedness team. And Dean's going to be taking us through all of the updates in relation to the Queensland situation update at the moment, how our surveillance is actually going, how we're tracking along with some permits and things like that at the moment. And then today's focus is all about record keeping. So, of course, if you've got any questions, if you're in our participants list, please feel free to throw them out at us towards the end of the presentation. And any questions that you've got, pop them into the Q&A or into the chat if you like, and we'd be happy to run through them afterwards. But for now, Dean, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome everyone today. I'd like to acknowledge our elders past, present, and emerging on the lands that we all gather, and make sure that we are doing everything to appropriately address cultural heritage in Australia. Over to you, Dean. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe and QBA, for inviting me to talk today. Just a little bit about myself. I've been involved in the response since about August last year. Mainly been working on the permit side of things. So today we're basically, as Joe said, going to run through all of the stuff that we've done in the past, and then our main focus today, I suppose, is going to be on our record keeping and what we need to do with our record keeping. Before I go too further, I'd like to acknowledge the First Nations people. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. As we know, the Varroa Mite response started on the 22nd of June 2022. We've subsequently had 159 properties in New South Wales with detections. Queensland, we'd like to acknowledge the work that New South Wales is doing with regards to containing the outbreak. They're doing a lot of testing, heavily testing on the edge of the purple areas now to try and get a ring around this thing so that we can try and eradicate. We still think that at this stage that eradication is possible. We'd also like to thank ARBIC and QBA for their contribution to the program. So, as I said, the department stood up a response originally when it first started, and then we got to a full-scale response, and a separate group was stood up in that sort of late July, early August time. Since then, we've gone through and created a Varroa Mite exclusion or biosecurity zone for all of Queensland, so that anyone coming into Queensland with a Varroa Mite carrier, bees or hives or parts of, need permits. But to date, I want to emphasise that there is no evidence of Varroa Mite in Queensland. With the effort that the department has stood up itself, we've now got 5 full-time members within the team, and we can also draw on other resources within DAF at any time we need to, with the likes of our comms people, legal strategy, all that sort of stuff are at our disposal. So the department is trying to make as big an effort as we can to make sure that we're prepared and we've got some processes in place. Our Autumn Blitz, as you imagine, we've had this Autumn Blitz going for the last month or so. We're asking everyone to go out, test their hives, report their numbers. It's very important that we can do this so that we can get a proof of freedom if we need that in the past, and just to make sure that we've got no Varroa in Queensland. We're pretty sure we haven't, but the more testing that we can get, the more results we can get entered into our B123 online form, which I think Larissa will be able to insert into the chat now. The more we can get testing, the more confident we are that we haven't got Varroa in Queensland. I think it's very important that we keep these testing regimes up and keep going with our testing. The more data we have, the more confident we can be in our processes and policies that we've got in place. What's an apiary? Because a bit of our numbers in the previous slide depended on the size of your apiary. So an apiary itself is considered either a hive standing alone or 2 or more hives standing in a group assembled in one area or location within 1.1 kilometres of each other for the beekeeping operations. What I want to explain with that 1.1 kilometre, with the data that the biometricians have worked on for us and our confidence levels with that data, if you've got your hives within 1.1 kilometres of each other, we can consider those at one apiary. So if I've got 120 hives spread over my cattle property at home, but I've got 40 in one corner of the paddock and 40 in another corner of the paddock and 40 over the gully, as long as they're within 1.1 kilometre of each other, we can consider those one apiary. If they're further than that distance apart, then we need to consider those as 2 apiaries. So you need to go to those different testing regimes, or you need to test each as an apiary separately. And that's where, large commercial beekeepers might have 1,000 hives, 10 sites of 100 sites each. If they're not within 1 kilometre of each other, they are considered 10 different apiaries. If you're testing for Varroa, and the more testing we can do, the better. But if you can't test all of those, say those 10 sites, pick the site that you think is going to be at the most risk. So that might be a site that's closer to the border, a site that you know is close to hives that have entered into Queensland under a permit situation, just something that you think might be at higher risk, because that's going to give us better data. The more you can test, the better. But if you can't test them all, pick the ones that are at each different at a higher risk location in your assessment. If we're talking about then testing apiaries and then moving those apiaries, if I've got, say for instance, I live down in the Lockyer Valley, I've got 40 hives at Laidley, 40 hives at Gatton, and 40 hives at Glenore Grove. They are considered under our rules 3 separate apiaries. 3 separate apiaries. So we test those 3 separate. But then if I move them up to one location up on the Downs at Dalby, and I put all those 120 back together, then they're one apiary into the future for testing regimes. Okay. Also, I want to remind everyone that an RBE, or your registered biosecurity entity, if you're keeping one or more hives, if you're keeping your hive on your land or on adjacent to your land, then you don't need to display a notice. But if you are keeping your hives on someone else's land, then you need to display a conspicuous notice on one of your hives, just quoting your registration number, etc., like that. It's just one of the parts of the legislation currently. Just a bit of an industry snapshot. You've probably all seen this slide. 157,000 hives in Queensland. The majority of those are within people, under the 25 hives. But we've got, quite a few beekeepers or apiarists with large number of hives. So they're the sort of ones that we really need to come out and do the testing, because they've got the ones with a lot of hives spread over a lot of country. So that's going to really, really help our testing. If we just look at this map, this just is a quick map showing the footprint of hive identification numbers registered across the state. As you can see, they're pretty well spread out right across the state. Bearing in mind that these are the numbers where the hens are registered to, and as we know the nomadic nature of beekeeping, we would expect that the hives are actually spread over a greater geographic area than these dots actually represent. This is our B123 survey data since April 21, since we started the autumn blitz. We've had 280 survey completed with 5,000 hives checked. So it's really, really good numbers. We really, really encourage you to keep up the testing regimes. The more numbers we get, the better data we get, the more confident we are. If we just look at the map where we've got these sites from, and we compare that to the map of the previous slide, we can see we're just lacking a little bit of data in some of the areas, mainly sort of around that Mackay region and then around that Bundaberg Gladstone area. So if you know anyone or you are a beekeeper in that area, please go and do some data, do some testing, submit your results, just to give us a bigger picture of where we're going to go and how we're going with our survey. Again, the B123 online system form. We put a link in the chat before. It's quite easy. You can scan the QR code, just go to it, download it on your phone. If you're not in phone reception, you can also, or you can load the data, then it will load when you get into back reception, or you can just record the data manually and record it on your via a PC when you get home. Again, there's just some more things that we've gone through in the past. Data testing. So once we submit your data into B123, we've jigged the system so it will now send you an email out with that testing data. This may come important if you're going to travel interstate with your hives, because some of the other jurisdictions may require that you've done some sort of testing or some testing results within a certain time frame. By entering in the B123, at least these will have some data that will get emailed back to you, so you can have that proof if you need it. Just want to remind you of our privacy policy while we're here. Larissa will put a link in the chat as well, but we're only using this information. We'll only use it for the Varroa Mite program. It won't be used by anyone else. It won't be out to any third party unless we're authorised or required by law. And only authorised officers within the department themselves will have proof access to the data. Why do we test? So constantly, government, ourselves and industry are weighing up the risks of Varroa Mite entering into Queensland and the needs of industry to maintain our market access. So you can see by that little scales there, what we're trying to always marry up is the needs of industry. What do we do to prepare if we get an incursion? So, and what we're doing is our testing. So the two types of testing that we've got is a testing for our proof of freedom, which is our testing that we're doing now for through that autumn blitz. And that's to get us a proof of freedom so that we can be confident and free, and prove that we're free of Varroa. The second row of testing is a testing as a requirement of our permit compliance. So we're currently permitting live bees to enter into Queensland under strict permit conditions, and we're requiring those to be tested prior to departure and once they're in Queensland. We're asking those guys, or requiring those guys, to test at a higher rate than we're currently asking for our surveillance testing. We're doing this because we understand that they are a higher risk. We want them to do a higher rate of testing. So they're testing more hives per load than our normal surveillance testing. This is pretty important. If you found a suspect sample on, when you're doing your testing, what do you do with it? Mark the hive so that we know exactly what hive it was, so that when we come out, we can deal with that hive. Call the call centre within 24 hours of that sampling, so that a biosecurity officer can contact you, and then we can take steps to work out what we're going to do. Save that sample, put it into a Ziploc bag, something like that, put it in the freezer. One of our officers will contact you as soon as you report it. Take a photo of it and report your results. Report your results using B123 and call 132523. All of those things are going to help us. Do them as quickly as you can if you've got a suspect. It's better to talk with us if you think you have one. Better to talk to us and prove that you haven't than to say, oh, I don't think it is, and not talk to us at all. We'd prefer you to call us and we go out and check and get it analysed to make sure that it's free, rather than, oh no, I think it's okay, and not worry about it. Please give us a call, then we can do something. When we're asking about taking a photo, this is how we're suggesting take that photo. Put it on a cotton tip, because that will give us some idea of, for comparison, for the size of your suspect sample, and it'll also make it clear because it's going to be on that white background. Put him with his legs facing up or legs facing down, same as either of those photos, because that lets us look at the actual shape of the mite, and that's a fair indicator of what type. Biosecurity instrument permits. Sorry, I probably explained this earlier. I'm just going to run through these first slides fairly quickly. We've all been through these before in the last talks. They are available on the YouTube channel. That's why I'm sort of going through them a bit quickly, and I want to really concentrate on our record keeping a bit later. So with our BIPs that we've got in store, our biosecurity instrument permits, that's to bring Varroa mite carriers and live bees from any state that has a reported Varroa mite. So currently at this stage, that's only the blue zone within New South Wales, where we require a permit. Live bees coming from Victoria at this stage do not require a permit to enter into Queensland. They will require some documentation to transit across New South Wales. So strongly suggest that you contact New South Wales to see what their requirements are to transit those bees across New South Wales. Also want to remind you that if you're purchasing bees from interstate, if you're purchasing bees from the blue zone within New South Wales, so where you do require a biosecurity instrument permit to enter into Queensland, it's your responsibility as the purchaser to get that permit. There's certain conditions that will be in that permit that you will need to follow on after that hive arrives in Queensland with regards to ongoing testing and surveillance. So it's important that you get that permit so that you're responsible for those things moving forward. Prior to the hive entering Queensland, it will also need pre-departure testing, which then you can ask the seller of that hive to do for you, or you can go and test it yourself. But if you trust that person to do that testing for you, then that's fine. Get him to submit the results to yourself and onto B123 so that we've got a record of it. Then that hive is free to travel into Queensland under the permit conditions. But it's important that you get the permit. That person selling the bees can't get the permit for you, is not responsible to get the permit for you. The process is there's a biosecurity instrument permit application. Larissa will put the link into the chat at the moment. So you go on there, submit that form. It's a very basic form designed across all of DAF for all of our permitting situations. So it could be cattle tick, etc. So it's a pretty basic form. Once it's submitted, it will come to myself or one of my other officers, and we'll then ring you and talk to you. We'll talk to you about what you want to do, how you want to do it, what the likely conditions are going to be on the permit, and how we can do it. Then what we're going to do is send you an email with another link to another form. I know it's a lot of paperwork, but what that form will do is gather more detailed information about what, where, why, and how you want to bring the stuff into Queensland. And also it'll load into the back end of our systems here now, which will make the whole process a lot quicker. We'll then look at that form. We've already spoken to you. We will go through that and assess the information. Hopefully it's all good. We'll go through, draw up the permit and issue the permit to you. We normally just email that permit back out to you with the conditions. It's got our phone numbers on it if you need to ring us about some clarification, but we've gone over most of the permit conditions in that first phone call so that you know what you're up for before you actually have to do it, because the conditions are reasonably onerous, and I would expect that you guys expect us to be reasonably onerous with those conditions for stuff coming in from the blue zone within New South Wales. We're all very keen to protect our own industry here, so we need to have those conditions fairly stringent. This is just some of the BIP applications we've had so far. We've had 152, 123 issued. There's 18, which is a little bit misleading, the number, because some of those people have withdrawn that. 11 permits were declined. Mainly they were permits for live bees that were early on in the process that we didn't have conditions drawn up and we weren't confident to bring live bees into Queensland. Just with those numbers of permits issued since 21st of April, when the border actually reopened for live bees coming in, total permits issued have been 50 since that date, so it's just over a month. We've had 50 permits. 34 of those have been for live bees. 15,694 hives have entered into Queensland under permit since the 21st of April. Me not coming from a bee background, that really astounded me. I thought, gosh, how mobile is this industry? Like, that's a lot of hives that we've issued permits for in the last month to come into Queensland. This is just another slide to show those permits issued. But if you look at the bottom one on the bottom right-hand corner, again, it's the total number of hives coming into Queensland, 15,694. But 9,224 of them have gone to Western Queensland in the Thargomindah area. The majority of those are New South Wales-based beekeepers who've brought their hives up into Queensland to prepare for pollination services down south later on almonds. And again, that just astounds me, that number. What I will say to you, Bud, is that not next week, the week after, 3 members of our team are actually travelling out into that Western Queensland area to go and do some surveillance and testing on the majority of those hives that have come in there. 3 people are going out, and they're going to spend about a week out there going through as many of those apiaries as we can, doing more testing. Again, it's very important that we make sure that the people coming in are doing the right thing with their pre-departure testing and all that sort of stuff. But we also want to go out and test ourselves just to make sure that they're clean, just because of that number. I think it's very important that we get out there and do some testing, and that's why the department has put that sort of effort in. I think our last costing on just so for the department's cost on that team going out there was just under 10 grand. So it's a considerable, again, a considerable investment by our group to get out there and do that testing. These are just some of the conditions, where you're going to come from, where you're going to, asking you to do testing on, this is on live bees coming into Queensland, on testing 14 days prior to departure, testing on a 16-week interval after you get in here. You must have done the TOCAL training course so that we know how to test. When we go out to do our surveillance, we're going to be checking the HIN marks. We're going to be, checking test results. We need to know transit routes so that we know that you're not going through emergency eradication zone or surveillance zones. All that sort of stuff is what we're going to be looking for with the people that we're going out to surveil next week, and what we're asking for people in the conditions of permits coming into Queensland. Just with regards to record keeping under the permits, there's a lot more detail, but just as a quick, we're asking everyone to keep records of everything. When they did their testing, any records they've kept. When those hives have come into Queensland, they've been sold or given away, where they've going to. Testing while you're here, testing where you came from. And all of that information needs to be available to an appointed inspector when they ask for it. So it needs to be readily accessible and legible for a period of 3 years. So it means that we can access it. It might be just on your computer. You might have a hard copy. You might be able to access it off your phone, stuff like that. We just need those records. It might be just as simple as a diary entry, but we need to look at those records. This is all in case we have an incursion. We need to know where our hives have come from, where they are, where they're going to. Really, really important. This is what I suppose I mainly wanted to talk about today. I hope I'm not going too long.
No, fantastic, Dean.
What we want to do with our records. When I'm talking records, I want to say that we as a government don't want you to do this record keeping and submit it to us in any way. We don't want it. It's for you guys to keep yourselves. The only time that government and industry will want to access some records is if we have an outbreak or an incursion into Queensland and there's a response. We will want to know, where your hives have been, where they've come from, where they're going to, where they are now. That's why we need those records. We'll need to look at records about your testing records so that we can be guaranteed that your hives are being clean, that sort of stuff. Record keeping is under your general biosecurity obligation under the Act, and it also should be, a business practice for your own selves, monitoring your hive health, etc. As I said before, it can be kept in many different ways. It can be kept in your diary. Your records can be just simple diary entry. You could keep it on a spreadsheet in a database at home. Use software, use a mobile app, whatever you can do, please do those records and keep those records. Particularly movement records need to be maintained for a minimum of 2 years. So that's, again, where your hives have come from, where they're going to. So I've moved these hives from here to here, and subsequently where that hive's going to move around the state, so that we can track and trace if we need to.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I might even add there, Dean, that was probably one of the main issues that we had in the initial period of the detection and the response to Varroa, particularly in that New South Wales Hunter area, was the fact that a lot of people probably hadn't really been maintaining and keeping records of hive movements when they'd accepted new queens into their apiaries, when they'd been conducting exotic disease testing and pest testing. So it is very, very important that everyone's playing their part. Just taking a few simple entries to be able to consolidate that information so that in the event of an incursion, at a very, very quick turnaround time, we can, industry and government together can work to really assess the current picture of where beehives actually might be currently located, and to then start that delimitation process and start working on the identification, obviously, of a trace forward, and then actually start moving to regionalise those areas. So please, record keeping is absolutely best practice, and it's relevant for everyone, whether you're a recreational beekeeper or you're a large-scale migratory commercial beekeeper.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, exactly. Very important. What we've undertaken, and we've developed a record keeping book. So it's going to be, we're currently in the process of having them printed out. We will have these at the QBA conference in June. We'll also be trying to send some out to the associated bee clubs around the state to get them out there. By no means are we saying that these are the only things that you can use to keep your records. You can use whatever system you want, but we've just tried to design this to try and help you, to make it a little bit easier, to give you a resource that you can use to record these. So these books are, going to be multi-page, multi-movement, all your testing results, disease monitoring, all that sort of stuff. We're also going to have on our website, and this is another thing that we've nearly got finished, is just a downloadable, a fillable PDF, if you like, which will be downloadable off our website, which is just going to be a single movement that you can just, download it, fill it in on your computer, and just save it in a file on your computer. If you're only doing a movement here and there and then, that might be just an easier way. We'll let you know when that's available, but I believe that it's nearly ready to go. Okay. Again, it's just going to list things like where from, where to, what measures did we take when we were moving these, did we wash them, how long ago did we wash these hives, all that sort of stuff. The better record keeping we got, the better for all of us at the end of the day. This is just a diagram. I don't particularly like it, but it's a diagram that just shows how migratory bees are, or beekeeping is, and how interconnected our industry is. Even if your hives yourself, I might just have a hive in Stanthorpe, in Stanthorpe town. I mightn't move my hive, but there could be bees all around me moving in and out of the state all the time. So we've got to always understand how migratory and how interconnected the whole industry is across the country. If you just look on that slide, we can see there's a big square on Warwick. If you look over to the left, there's Wagga Wagga, there's Cooma, there's Bega, there's Taree, there's Thargomindah. It's all over the place. So, and that's one of the things that amazed me when I first joined the group, was the migratory nature of the industry and the interconnectedness of the industry. And it's actually just blown me away. Really, really impressed. This is our main thing. This is our main thing why we need our records. Okay, the big red circle in the middle is, hang on, suddenly we've got a detection within Queensland. What do we need to do? Well, we need to trace backwards. Where did those hives come from? We're probably going to go back 12 months. It might even go back 2 years. Where did that hive come from? What hives was that hive in contact with? Where did those hives go to? So that's backwards. Obviously then tracing forwards, because by the time we get those results, that hive may have moved. So again, he's moved forward to the right-hand side of that screen. So that hive's moved. Has he been in contact with any other hives that have then subsequently moved? this is why our movement records are going to be vitally important if we get a detection, because we need to know this for all of our sakes. We need to know this information so that we can act quickly and decisively to try and control this thing. If we don't, it's not going to be good for all of us. So it's really, really important that we have those. Also, not only think about our hives, the white circle in the middle, dangerous contact premises, is, if I've gone, I've got, my hives have got an outbreak. Joe came to me and helped me do a wash on my tests a couple of weeks ago. So, and then we've got the results. Oh, we've got a positive. Well, where did Joe go after she left my place? Did she happen to take a dead bee on her somewhere with a mite that has then dropped into her hives? That's what we need to also be thinking about. So not only where our live bees went to, where personally we moved to, or our equipment and content moved to. So they're the sort of records that we really, really need to keep. I can't emphasize it enough. This is what we need. Trace forward, trace back, tracing of people and equipment. That record keeping is going to help us immensely. Okay. That's really what's going to keep us safe. Look, I don't know what more I can talk about. I'm hoping to just throw it open now and you guys can ask us a heap of questions, and hopefully we can answer them all.
Thank you, Dean. That was absolutely fantastic stepping through. Record keeping really, there is a strong emphasis on record keeping, and retrospectively, record keeping applies to everyone at the end of the day. If you are retailing a product in particular and you're putting your label on that product, you need to have traceability. It's, your legal liability to make sure that you're protecting yourself. So by having that supporting evidence and that supporting material not only helps us in an incursion, but in best practice to protect your interests and the welfare of your own business, it also gives you that traceability back for your customers as well. So, we really are talking top business practice here. I suppose I will hand over and open it up. I can see a couple of participants online in particular. I'd just like to throw it over to them to see if they've got any questions at all. While we're doing that, I'm definitely very excited to see the enthusiasm from our Varroa Mite Prevention and Preparedness Program team heading out to the west. So my emphasis on all beekeepers is to expect the unexpected. So, there is a significant compliance operation that's going on to make sure that bee movements that have come into the state are nice and clean, and everything has been done as we expected to be done. But I really do look forward to seeing some of the results of the engagement within this program. It's something that the QBA will continue to lobby for when we do start moving into larger pollination events, just like our wide bay burnout Bundaberg pollination of nuts and avocados and things like that. So it is that stepping stone. From my perspective, while I'm waiting to see if there's any microphones that pop online for questions, it is really, really encouraging to see those hive survey results coming up, and they are climbing. I've just done a quick couple of numbers, and we've had 120 reports just in the past week, with 2,286 hives being actually tested. So that is a fantastic effort, and we are getting there. We're a third of the way there. We've still got a very long way to go to reach those thresholds of 15,000 hives tested every 16 weeks. But this is everyone playing their part in the response to Varroa. Make no doubt about it, the Queensland data is absolutely imperatively important to the national picture. So whilst we're bolstering and putting all of our effort behind accuracy of information and supporting the response in New South Wales, every bit of surveillance testing that goes on in Queensland is complementary to that end picture. We want to protect our freedoms, and we want to protect our brand and our image of clean, green Australian honey and beeswax and things like that. So everyone being a part of the system is basically helping to resolve this situation that we're finding ourselves in. But I think what this has highlighted for everyone is exotic mite surveillance. It's not just important important when you're in response mode. It's important all the time. So we all have a biosecurity obligation to make sure that we're doing everything in our means to, you know, look for and detect exotic pests early. So it's very exciting to see that. I don't see too many questions coming through, unfortunately, at the moment. What I might just quickly give an update on is QBA was really excited to be involved and invited to attend the launch of the Purple Hive project in Townsville, which was really, really exciting. So having that opportunity to actually be there for the launch of that program was absolutely wonderful. I see it personally as a great opportunity that the tunnel vision has been removed from our current biosecurity advances and the surveillance programs that we're using. And it's encouraging to see governments looking outside of the traditional means and incorporating new technology. So I do look forward to advancing on Purple Hive project where possible, and advocating for increased frontline biosecurity measures. So that was really great to be a part of that. There was a lot of great media in and around that. If you haven't caught the stories, check out the Queensland Beekeepers Facebook page, or some of our members' reports that are coming out for our Around the Grounds on Friday afternoon. In addition to that, conference isn't too far away. We still do have some tickets available, but please make sure you get in and book as soon as physically possible. We will close ticket sales on Wednesday, the 31st of May. So if you have not gotten your ticket by then, please do not walk up to the door because you will be disappointed. We've got very, very strict numbers, making sure that everyone can be well fed and well warded, as well as well educated. We've got a great lineup of speakers. Cameron Jack has been in contact with us and he is busy packing his layers of thermal protection wear ready to meet us in Toowoomba for what should be 3 really exciting days of industry events, in together with managing a lot of our scientific speakers. We've got a lot of industry and business support speakers as well coming along to address a lot of different matters relevant to modern day beekeeping in Queensland. And the trade show particularly, we're upwards of 25 trade stands now for our conference. So it is looking very, very healthy. We've got a number of major sponsors that are exhibiting their products and their new equipment. So make sure you come along. If you'd like to just get a one-day ticket, you can do so for the Friday. But we definitely welcome everyone. We'll wrap the program up with our conference, with our annual dinner, and that will be a fine dining affair to celebrate what has been a very challenging 12 months for everyone involved in beekeeping, most definitely, and all industries dependent on honeybees. So we look forward to celebrating and really letting off some steam, shall we say, at our fabulous conference dinner. And then on the Saturday we'll roll into the QBA field day up at the Toowoomba Showground. So that should be a very, very exciting event. I know the team from the Toowoomba branch are furiously working to get together what should be a fantastic day, not only for beekeepers, but for anyone passionate about bees and more so passionate about environment and habitats. They've got a lot of great market stalls there, so you might be able to pick yourself up a new smoker, maybe an alcohol wash kit or two to make sure that you're doing those alcohol washes. But yeah, it should be a really exciting event. So Toowoomba, the Garden City, should be absolutely buzzing with beekeepers from the 15th until the 17th of June. So if you haven't got your tickets, get in contact with Steph, our QBA support officer, at info@qbabees.org.au, and we would be happy to support you in completing your conference registration. I might just put it out there. We've got a couple of people online, but I'm not really seeing too much interest there in asking questions. So Dean, we might call it a wrap for Friday afternoon. My thanks to yourself, everyone from the department behind the scenes. This is, a new venture for the QBA in contacting our members and having that extension and giving you the latest information so that we can keep you all abreast of exactly what's going on in Queensland. But yeah, thank you for joining us. I wish you well this weekend. Please stay warm. The wild west winds, I think, are starting to spike up. So stay warm, everyone, and we'll see you in a fortnight's Friday from now. Check out the QBA members website for more information about the next Toolbox talk. Bye for now.
Thanks, Joe.
Hello, Queensland beekeepers. My name's Cameron Jack. I'm a professor at the University of Florida, and my primary focus is controlling Varroa, small hive beetles, and any other pest or pathogen that could be ailing your bee. So I'm excited to be able to be with you in June, and I look forward to meeting you and hopefully to see and talk about some Varroa-free beekeeping. I'll talk to you soon.